Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am going to talk to you about some books I feel are extremely underrated that you just don't hear about, so get ready to add some more books to your TBR. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Katie. I am a crime and thriller girly who does branch out into romance for a palate cleanser, but crime and thriller is where you will find my head in a book most of the time. We are going to talk about today some underrated books. I keep seeing the same books recycled over on TikTok and Instagram, and I am here to try and bring you some new books to add to your TBR that are less well known and I think deserve a lot more hype than they get. That being said, it is getting more common that you see people talk about underrated books, but that is what I love, and that is the side of book talk I keep wanting to see. So I am going to talk to you today about some books by authors I've never heard mentioned, but also some books by very well-known authors that nobody ever mentions, and a general author in general that I think deserves the hype. But yeah, come along with me. We're going to tell you what these books are about, why I loved them so much, and try and convince you to add them to your TBR. The first book I want to talk to you about is The Chase by Ava Glass. This, I can't remember actually what I ended up rating it. I think it was 4.5. So this follows an agent who basically has to go, and her mission is to find the son of a guy who's very much wanted, I think, by the Russian mafia. This was not what I expected from a book. I did not realise it was mafia based, but I bloody loved it. So she is on a mission to get him to his safe place before the Russians get to him. However, she is left with absolutely no resources. Her company are remotely no help. So the chase is on. I loved this from start to finish. I inhaled this. This was actually discovered in the library. So I was on a mission as part of a series over on TikTok to find more books by authors I hadn't read before in an attempt to expand my reading, because I had become very fixated on reading book talk books. Like, I've just put a massive haul on Vinted because of books I'd picked up because of the hype that I'm never going to read. So this was like one of the first books I picked up, and it was fantastic. Chapters were short. I was hooked from the off. I'm pretty certain I gave it 4.5 stars. It was absolutely fantastic. I could not recommend this enough. It's by an author I've actually never heard of either. So this is your sign if you want to try a new author to look into this one. Like I said, I got it at my local library, but this was an absolutely well-written book, and I loved the difference in what the kind of genre that I pick up. So it was a thriller, but it was very mafia-based, and I'm not usually into that kind of thing, so it did turn my taste a little bit. The next kind of series I want to talk to you about is the Margot Phelan series by Kate Wiley. Now, you guys know by now I love a detective series, and book 1 in the series is The Killer's Daughter. I will put all of the series on the screen, but I'm going to talk to you about The Killer's Daughter. So basically, this follows Margot Phelan, who has had an identity change as her dad is currently in prison for being a serial killer. He is on a mission to try and wind her up, and he keeps admitting to more. So the little sideline through all of this, I should mention that Margot Phelan is a detective at this point. But the whole theme through the series is that he is slowly trying to release more info about more bodies that they haven't found, and she is the only person he will talk to. And then of course in each book, to make it that you can kind of read it as a standalone, but I would strongly recommend the series, is that she is trying to solve cases in her real job. I loved the character development of this book. This series actually came to an end, which made me exceptionally sad. However, Kate Wiley did something very clever. She has started another series based on Margot Phelan, but in a different way, and I've read book 1 as an arc and loved it. I've got book 2 as an arc to read, and yeah, you do not hear anything about Kate Wiley, and admittedly, the first book didn't fully hit the spot for me, but then the rest of the series was fantastic. Now, I will say another author that's coming up in here also did the same. I often find the first book takes me a while, but in terms of detective series and character development, just persevere with the series, because yeah, this series is not talked about enough, which is why I wanted to bring it to you, but I could talk about this series a lot, and I do over on my TikTok channel. Kate Wiley deserves much more hype than she gets. I've not heard a person talk about her, so this is your sign to add it to your TBR, because I want more people to know about Kate Wiley. Next up is The Rule by David Jackson. This follows a neurodivergent adult who still lives with his parents, and his parents have given him one rule: you do not touch anybody. He does not know his own strength. Then they are met by the wrong kind of person, and basically the guy goes to attack this guy's dad, and he goes to protect him, but at what cost will the parents go to keep him safe? This was wild. I read this again pretty quickly. It was either a 4 or a 4.5 star, and yeah, again, author I'd never heard of, and the chapters were short, easy to follow, but yeah, the ending got me. My jaw was on the floor. It took a very wild turn, I must say. Like, now I'm talking about these books to you, I still think about this ending. So that tells you it made an impact. Again, a library pick. So my local library really has been paying off, and yeah, my goodness, you need to add this one to your TBRs, can't speak. You need to add this one to your TBR, guys. Next up is Kill Me Twice by Simon Booker, and this basically follows, I think she's an investigative journalist. She basically is someone who is approached by someone in prison who is currently imprisoned for killing her boyfriend in a fire. The girl is petrified of fire, so it makes no sense, but yet she's been charged with his murder. The other female main character is on a mission to try and solve this, and yeah, she basically tries to find out what's going on. I loved the concept of this. This was fast-paced. I should mention he allegedly shows up outside the investigative journalist's house. And yeah, easy to follow. Again, guys, another library pick. If this video teaches you anything, it's that your local library have so many hidden gems for books that it's an absolute must. So this is fast-paced, short-chaptered. It was a reason, I wouldn't say chunky, but for a thriller, it was above the 400 mark. And I think edging towards 500, to be honest, but I still read it really quick. The pace of this picked up so fast towards the last 50%, like, I cannot begin to tell you, and yeah, it was fantastic, and I would strongly recommend it. On to some well-known authors now, but books I haven't heard talked about enough. So the first book is Her Last Move by John Marrs. Now, I have heard John Marrs talked about quite a lot. He is one of my favourite authors, and I know he is well known, but I don't want to talk about his underhyped books. So I am working through his backlist at the moment, and the book I want to talk to you about is Her Last Move. Now, this is basically follows a detective who, when somebody goes around and starts basically unaliving for fun, he just goes around randomly killing people. It is Becca's job to try and solve it with, I can't remember what they call him in the story now, but basically a guy who has a fantastic photographic memory, and they work together to try and solve this case, but she is currently trying to manage her personal life, having a young daughter as a single parent. And yeah, I loved this. This was so fast-paced. John Marrs is fantastic for short chapters, easy to read, but yeah, I cannot recommend this enough. It was so easy to follow, and yeah, I can't say any more than that. I just feel like it's not talked about enough. I read this within a couple of days, and yeah, John Marrs has a good way of writing, and I know he's not underhyped. As an author, he's very, very hyped, but that book just needs more hype than it's getting. The next book is 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. Now, I recently read this, and I have heard a lot about The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, but I've never heard anything of 9 Lives. I'd not heard of the book until, you can guess, I picked it up in a library. So yeah, I just thought it was about time that I gave it a bit of hype. So this basically, 9 people receive a piece of paper that has 9 names on it. Their name is on that list. One of those is a detective. The race is on when one of them rocks up dead. Now, this concept was fantastic. I actually read this book in a day. Now, it wasn't a 5-star feel, but for me, it was just so easy to read. It was definitely a slump buster because I was in a slump when I read this. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed the story. It had its shocks, it had its twists and turns. I would call it more a popcorn thriller, but yeah, it was so random and made no sense until the end, and then it all wrapped up, and I just love a book that wraps up and leaves you with no unanswered questions but still has that thriller aspect. So for me, I bloody enjoyed this, and I am actually going to go and try more Peter Swanson, but I'd not heard of this book, guys, so this is your sign. Even your favourite authors, look into some of their older books. I don't actually know how old that book is, but I think it's a good 8-9 years old. I'm sure it was 2018. But yeah, strong recommend, guys. That was such a good book. Now, guys, this is going to come as no shock, but guess who I think is an underhyped author? I'll give you a second. Steve Kavanagh, of course. So, yes, he is getting more hype than he used to, and I'm not going to say I'm the reason for that. I'm not that big-headed. But I will talk about Steve Kavanagh till I'm blue in the face. He is the writer of the Eddie Flynn series, and there are so many detective series out there that get so much hype. Robert Hunter does, and yeah, there are just so many more series out there that get all this hype, and he doesn't get enough of a mention. He is a lot slower of a detective series, but as I've just talked about Kate Wiley, Steve Kavanagh I feel is the same. The Defence is actually my least favourite book, and it's the first in the series. Fortunately, I actually picked them up out of order originally. I would recommend reading the Eddie Flynn series in order. I have put them on the screen. However, the one thing I will say to you is if you read them as standalones, you're missing out on a lot of character development. But I'm not going to say you can't. Steve Kavanagh himself has said they are standalones. The other books I want to talk to you about are Twisted and Kill for Me, Kill for You. Kill for Me, Kill for You is my favourite book of all time by him, and I literally buy anything that he owns. I am trying to get arcs of his books because I am by far his biggest fan. He is an absolutely phenomenal writer. I love his character development in books. He is a palate cleanser of a thriller for me. So I am very much in my dark thriller era at the moment, but he just brings me back down to the palate cleansing level where I'm not reading about really disturbing murders, but there's still murder. It's just a lot less gruesome, and that's okay. So if you want a lighter thriller, Steve Kavanagh is definitely an author I recommend. I will talk about Until I'm Blue in the Face. I think I've done a video about him slowly on here already back when I first started my booktube, but yeah. This is your sign, guys. Please give Steve Kavanagh a try. Guys, that is just a few of the books I would recommend. I want to talk more underrated books. I feel like, yes, the books are getting the hype they deserve that are hyped, but some books just deserve more hype, and there are so many more good books in the world than the same 10 that circulate on TikTok. I'm not saying that to be controversial. I just strongly believe that there are more books out there that need to be found, and that there are hundreds and thousands of thriller writers out there who deserve as much of a break as the big authors do too. So yeah, this is your sign to support the lesser known authors. And let me know in the comments, guys, are there any underrated books you've read that I've probably not heard of that I could try? And let me know, have you read any of those? And yeah, like I've said, let me know your favourite. And thank you for joining me on another video, guys. Loving being back here. And yeah, I cannot wait to bring you more videos. If you have stayed till the end, I appreciate you, but also could you please hit that thumbs up button? It just gets me out to more booktubers. And if you're new here and fancy sticking around, hit that subscribe button. Genuinely, guys, it would mean the world to me. I am on a mission to get to 300, and I know that doesn't sound a lot, but I'll never be one of those big creators, and I'm okay with that. I just love yapping about books, and I want more people to find my videos just that love that too. So thank you for joining me, guys, and yeah, I will see you all in the next video.